Over the past 6 episodes, we've taken you behind the scenes and through each and every step of the pre-construction process. From dreaming big, dialing in your budget, developing your design, and value engineering, we've explored the ideas, decisions, and conversations that will shape how your home will live and feel. Today, we've reached the final chapter in that journey, the moment when all of your planning comes together and it's time to make it official. We've always said that choosing a builder is a lot like a marriage. And everything we've talked about this season, you could say, is a bit like planning a wedding. You've chosen the venue, aligned on the details, and committed to a vision that is in alignment, yet still uniquely yours. Now, with the contract signed, the preparations begin in earnest. Today, we're bringing it all together and getting ready to jump the broom, or in this case, turn dirt.
Welcome to the Art of Custom. In today's episode, we are looking at the final stage of the pre-construction process. This is when decisions start becoming action and your home building journey goes from vision to reality as we turn the pre-construction process into an active construction site. Enjoy!
It's time to go. Today, we're going to bring it all together. The wish list, the land, the numbers, the design, and we make it official. We are going to build a house, but not just any house, a one-of-a-kind, tailored just for you dream home. Melody, once again, your writing is exemplary.
Well, thank you.
You've got me excited about this episode, and I really just read the intro and the cold open.
So,
It's been a great season.
Yeah, and I think that it's been really useful because we've dug into some of the details that I think we talk about design a lot. We talk about building a lot, but that planning component of it, we've not really had a chance to dig into yet.
It's very important, as we all know, because the more planned you are up front, the easier and the more successful the project is going to go. So when we started talking about season 8 and you said, hey, what if we do a deep dive kind of in that pre-construction phase? I was all in because to your point, we've talked about so many things related to construction and design, but it was kind of nice to dig in and let people know, okay, there is a very important part that comes before construction. Let's do a deep dive. So you've done a really nice job kind of presenting everything and getting people ready to build their new home.
Well, and I think we've had a lot of really great guests on. I know Chris keeps coming back. But
he's the guest that keeps on giving, isn't he?
I know. But even this time we got to speak to estimators in both markets. So we started with planning and vision. That's before you even start talking to a builder. It's kind of pulling things together. And the other thing is that land, looking at land like a builder. I had a lot of people excited about that episode, actually.
Well, because, Melody, it's crucial for many reasons. Number one, to the design of the home, and number two, to the budget of the home. You have to make sure that when you're looking for the right piece of ground, you take all of those, ideas into consideration. And that's why we continue to stress to put your team together up front and find a builder who's willing to go with you, walk the land, and talk to you about maybe some of the unexpected costs that could be associated with that particular piece of ground.
We talked a little bit more about the team dynamics this time. I know we've talked about how to find your team in the past, but really how everything layers on top of each other and finding that perfect combination. That was kind of new territory for us too.
It was, and a lot of times, and we've talked about this in some of our past episodes and all, a lot of times people think that it's a better path to go down to do a competitive bid, where we've dispelled that on many occasions. And we've talked about the importance of putting your team together. And that team includes the architect. It includes, obviously, the client. The client is the star of the show, but the builder and then the interior designer that you're working with. Because we will say this until we're blue in the face. If you're working with the right team, and you share your accurate budget with them, you can plan the home and plan your finishes of the home to be, right within that budget range.
Right. And I don't think people understood that the architect and the designer are also keepers of your budget too. And so that was My favorite episode, I think, was, and I'm super excited because we get to stop by the
Let me guess,
location.
it's when you get to go walk your plan.
Yes, I am so excited. I'm a very visual
That
person.
was cool.
Yeah. And he had a lot of knowledge just in general about, pulling together a floor plan, but, just this neat new technology.
It's a game changer. There's no doubt about that. And it was exciting to see that they're expanding into many markets around the country, which I think is very important.
Right.
Obviously, they're in the St. Louis market and now the Salt Lake City market. But the fact that they are now nationwide and the fact that it's very reasonably priced for you to be able to walk the actual floor plan, see how it feels, see how the layout is. I mean, that's something that is just invaluable. And it's something that was not available until recently.
And I know that being able to look at something and make design decisions about colors and stuff like that, it actually standing in the scale of because I know one of the things that when you do start turning dirt, people think, oh my gosh, this room is so small. But then they get into it once drywall goes up. Oh my gosh, this room is so big. So it kind of helps with some of that future anxiety, maybe too.
Yeah. And you try to keep that anxiety down as much as possible during the construction process. And that's where we could go all the way back to what did we first start talking about in this particular episode? Planning and vision. Right. The planning process is crucial. And we've talked about that many times. And here we are talking about it again. So yeah, being able to walk your plans like that is just awesome.
Well, and then we talked about the budget component of it, which, seeing your plans in person is going to probably have an impact on that too. But I guess a humble brag on us that we have customers in Park City, which is such a different market than St. Louis. And I feel like the range between the two is great because that budgeting component is so different in both markets. So we brought both of our estimators in, the ones who are kind of the keepers of the budget, to kind of walk everybody through, and you got to see both perspectives.
Yeah, and you could say the same thing for many builders in different parts of the country. We try to be helpful to anyone building all over the country. We try to provide helpful information, but there's no doubt about it. Building in Minnesota is different than it is in Florida. Building up in the New York area is different than it is in California. But what we're trying to do is bring some perspective to things and just let you know kind of where we are. Midwest, everything is pretty much the same. The Rocky Mountain areas, the Wasatch Mountains, you can expect pretty much the same thing as well. But the idea is if you're building in a resort community, whether it's the mountains or the beach or the lakes, or if you're building kind of in the middle of the country, there are a lot of similarities. But the main takeaway is find a builder you trust, use the ideas that we've presented to kind of help you, guide you. But then if there are differences, understand that that's geographically, that's the way it is. And it's not that we're providing information that's not accurate. It's just that things are different in various parts of the country.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we also spoke about was value engineering.
You can do that in all parts of the country.
Yeah, and I think that is a crucial step that some builders may or may not offer. And so I was really glad that we were able to break that down for folks.
We've had several, especially in the St. Louis market, several clients over the past few years actually come to us because their original builder was not paying attention during the design and basically let the architect go without any kind of guidance. And what happened is they ended up with a project that was 20, 30, 40, even 50% over budget. So they were frustrated, rightly so. I get it. I understand it. They came to us instead and asked us if we would be able to help. And the first thing we did was help them value engineer the house. Now, what does that mean? That means simply helping them understand where they can make changes to the current plans to save money. And it's something that I would stress that when you first meet with your builder, ask them, how involved are they upfront with the design phase? Because the more involved your builder is upfront, the better chance you have of hitting your original budget. Now, again, I want to be clear about something. You might have $1 million or a $2 million budget, and your builder may work extremely hard to bring you in within that budget. You've got to trust your builder because even in the St. Louis market, we've seen this over the past couple of months. We've had some clients that we've been very diligent about trying to guide them as far as size, finish levels, materials, and everything else to keep them on budget, yet they still want to go a little bit larger here, or they might want to have this cool architectural feature there. And what has happened is those have impacted the budget, and those clients have been a little bit disappointed. But again, we've walked them through it. We've helped them them understand what the differences are, what they can do to bring them back within budget. So the takeaway is your builder and your architect are your best advocates. They can design a home that will meet your budget, but you have to trust them. And if you start asking for upgrades, you have to expect that the home that you wanted to build for $1 million or $2 million is going to cost more. And the builder and architect, if they're really helping you, will help you understand those cost implications as you're going through the process.
I mean, that ties back to your planning. What are your wants, needs, and wishes so you can prioritize? So once you get all of those tweaks into place, that's where I honestly don't know a lot about the moving into contract process. And I've been around for a while. So I'm going to kind of grill you on what happens after you value engineer, because I kind of have no idea.
Well, after you value engineer, obviously you're going to have a budget. Once the budget is accepted, you typically move on to the actual construction contract itself. All builders are going to work a little bit differently, but typically builders will have some sort of a pre-build agreement that you're working under during the design phase. And a lot of builders will have required down payments up front and things like that. Every builder's a little bit different. Go with what's comfortable for you. But the construction contract process is one that, quite frankly, every custom builder will also have their own contract. We share our contracts with our clients early on because many of those clients want to have them reviewed by an attorney. Now, this is what I feel very good about is we've actually, over the past couple of years, built homes for a couple of attorneys. And each time the attorneys have come back and said, this is one of the most fair contracts I've ever seen when it relates to a construction project. So again, we've developed that contract over the past 21 years. We've tweaked it here and there and changed it. But our goal all along was to make it fair. It has to be fair. You're working together. You want to feel like you're in this together. So my recommendation is before you sign a contract, have an attorney look it over, but be willing to compromise. Your attorney might say, hey, approach them about this article or this clause or whatever, but don't go in with guns a-blazing saying, you must change this. Go in and saying, my attorney recommends that we talk about this a little bit. Find common ground. You've got to find the architect and the builder and the designer you trust, right? So you need to trust then that the contract that you're going to sign off on is one that's going to be fair for both sides. Then you sign the contract, and from there, the contract is turned into your lender, and the lender can begin processing the loan and getting you ready for construction. We've actually had some clients come to us with some really good suggestions. And if I tweak a contract, I really do take a good, long, hard look at that and think that may be something that's beneficial for both parties down the road. It's basically changed because of that. Now, there are some standard contracts, like, for example, architects have a standard contract that they use based upon I don't know exactly what the group is. There's an international group of architects, and they have a contract. And I think there are some builders who may have a contract based upon the National Association of Home Builders and things like that. But most custom builders will have their own contract. A production builder, they will have their own contracts as well. But there's nothing wrong with having someone look at that on your behalf.
And that's where we don't want to gatekeep, people getting into custom construction and say, don't look at a production builder but your custom builder contract is going to be probably dramatically different than
It will be.
production. And so having that fairness would come from working with somebody who understands.
I will guarantee you that a custom contract is much different than a production builder's contract, much more friendly, if you will. It's only because, again, this is kind of a teamwork. You're working together, and it's just kind of the way it is in the industry.
So if I had to build a checklist of documents that I'm going to have to walk away with after I sign the contract, you've got the physical contract.
Correct.
Construction documents.
The actual plans themselves. Some people still call them blueprints, but they're actually construction documents, correct?
Yeah.
You'll want to have your site plan, and a lot of times the site plan is incorporated into the construction documents. Some parts of the country, you'll have a separate list of structural calculations done by a structural engineer. All of that information is actually integrated into the construction documents, but you'll have a separate set of structural engineering documents as well in some parts of the country. For example, we do in Utah. We have to submit those for permitting, where in St. Louis, we don't.
And so where does the budget play into this? Because I know you need a final budget.
Right. You'll have the final budget. Now, this is where either integrated into that final budget are all the specifications that are going to be followed as far as the construction project itself, or you might have a separate specifications document that supports the budget as far as what has been bid and how has it been bid in that particular budget. Now, I don't know that you should get too caught up in specifications because, again, you're building what the architect has drawn on those plans. And a lot of times people don't understand that if a builder, especially like us, if we're a fixed cost builder, we have to build what's on those plans and we're building it to a certain budget. You're really not supposed to vary from those plans unless you tell your client what you're doing and why and get their approval. That's part of our contract, as a matter of fact. And those are really the main documents that you're going to need as far as that you should have and keep in your files, if you will.
When we're talking about change orders, that's an addendum to the contract?
Change orders are a little bit different. Usually it's not an addendum to the contract. Your contract will have a clause that talks specifically about change orders and how they're handled. Change orders are simply something that during the process itself, you will have some sort of a document that you sign off on, which is a contract, if you will, because you're going to say, okay, I want to make this change. I've agreed to this particular price, and then I will fund that change order as well. So change orders are not usually part of the contract itself. There'll be a clause in the contract that talks about, okay, if there is a change order, is there a fee involved up front? Is there a percentage involved on the back end? How does the builder handle it? And it can be handled in many different ways. We don't have change order fees, if you will. What we do is we simply, whatever our builder fee is, gets added on to that particular change order. But there are some builders who will have a flat change order fee, and then they will also have a percentage on top of it. That's pretty typical in the industry.
And you could have a restocking fee if it's a piece that's been ordered or something like that.
That's a really good point, Melody. And again, it's not that the builder's trying to make extra money because they really aren't, but especially in this day and age when inventories are low, there may be a restocking fee for something if you change your mind, and it's just part of the process.
So I've heard in the past that the change order acts as a contract between the builder and the sub to get that work done, right? So, but it's almost its own thing.
The way we do it and the way most builders will handle it is with what we call a purchase order for our client, or it's also a change order. So not only do we have our clients sign off on whatever that change is going to be, we then commit to the subcontractor. We'll have a contract with them. We call it a purchase order. It's our contract with our trade. You will do this work for this amount of money. So we have our client sign off on the change order first, then we have our trade sign off on the change order or the purchase order second. That way we have both sides covered, and we know that the contractor that we're hiring is going to honor their price, and we know that the client is going to pay the agreed upon change order price as well.
Next season, we're going to get really into how the change orders function.
Yeah, we should do a deep dive. As a matter of fact, we're talking with one potential client from the Park City market who listens to the podcast, loves the podcast.
Well, hello.
And he had that recommendation. He said, you really should do something about change orders and how builders handle it and help people understand a little bit more. Because quite frankly, you've heard horror stories about change orders. And that's why we have decided to become that fixed cost builder. And that's why we want to be very transparent. We have a clause in our contract about change orders, and we also have a very defined way that we handle a change order. So a takeaway for people who are considering building, talk to your builder specifically. How do you handle change orders? Give me an example. Talk to their clients. What was the change order process like? Any issues that you came across? I mean, we just yesterday had a potential client who called a couple of our current clients as referrals for a Park City build. And it turned out that they came back, were very pleased with the conversations they had with our current clients. And one of the questions was absolutely about change orders and budgeting. And so ask for referrals, talk to referrals, and do not be afraid to ask the tough questions of those referrals.
Let's talk timeframes a little bit. You have
Sure.
your final design.
Yes.
You need that before you go to your budget.
Correct. Because the final budget, if you want an accurate budget, do not let your builder say, oh, we've got preliminary construction documents, we'll go budget your house. You set yourself up for a disaster because then you will run into changes and change orders. So make sure your builder has the final set of construction documents before they go out to budgeting.
It's almost like trying to build that preliminary budget without having looked at the land.
Bingo.
Yeah. What is the time frame from that final set of documents typically through budgeting to signing the construction
Yeah,
contract?
most builders, I would say, are in that 4-week range or so in order to turn their budgets because at least I think they should be, because then you know they're budgeting the right way. They're actually sending the plans out and having their trades bid them. Now, there are some builders that can do their own takeoffs and do their own budgeting that way, and they might be able to turn the plans a little bit sooner. I'm okay with that. Again, every builder is a little bit different. I prefer the old-fashioned way, which is getting trades to commit to a certain price, and then you issue a purchase order based upon that price. It's like our contract.
Mhm.
But other builders, maybe they do more homes each year, and they have a larger staff, and they have a staff that does takeoffs, and they have historical data they can use, which is fine. But just be a little bit careful if you're signing a cost-plus contract and the builder has done their budgeting via a takeoff versus having a trade or somebody bid the labor and materials. You could be opening yourself up for a little bit of a tussle down the road. In a cost-plus contract, they can come back and ask for more money, and they don't really have to give you necessarily a good reason for it. So that's why we do it the old-fashioned way of truly having everybody bid everything out, giving us a firm price. We issue a purchase order based on that price. So from a time standpoint, that's why I say a month. And then after the end of a month, once the client is comfortable with the budget, they give it to the lender. The lender needs anywhere from 30 to 45 days to turn their loan. So typically, once the budgeting process starts until you can actually start turning dirt, 45 days minimum, but it's usually, if you're talking about the budgeting process and then the lending process, 60, maybe 75 days, somewhere in that area.
What questions do clients typically ask during this phase of the process? What do you normally hear whenever you submit a contract to somebody?
I usually don't hear a lot because, usually your builder will help you understand the process along the way. We try to continually update them on the timing of everything and where we are and what's coming next. During the budgeting process, I know a lot of our clients are asking for option pricing, which I think is great. You may, for example, out in our Utah market, we do a lot of snowmelt systems for driveways and concrete decks and patios and all. We usually option those in so the clients aren't committing to it, but they're understanding, okay, if we want to include that in our construction and in our contract and in our loan, what is the cost going to be? So I recommend that you think about asking your builder to bid out a few options along the way so you have an idea what those prices are. Because if you wait and have that bid out after you already have your loan in place and construction is underway, then you have to come out of pocket for those costs because your lender has already set the terms of the loan, the total dollar value of that loan. So try to think of what options you might want up front. Ask your builder, what are some of the common options people building in this particular market are asking for? And then have the builder give you those options up front, because if you want to accept them, they will then be included in your budget, which goes to your lender, which goes to your loan processor, and then it's part of your actual construction contract and the construction financing.
And that's one thing that we didn't really dig into, but we've dug into so many times because it changes as well. We wanted this to be a little bit more evergreen, but the loan process, and it's different between lenders, it's different between builders, and it can be in flux. So we'll probably drop a bonus episode.
Yeah, we should.
With an update.
we should do that. I know that it does vary from market to market, but the key is your builder has really good relationships with lenders. They work well with certain lenders. We do in both markets, actually. Once you feel comfortable with your builder and you have your build team in place, that team can include your lender as well. Then you're all working together toward the same goal.
And I know we have a couple of lenders that our clients just love.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tend to refer out to them because the feedback that we get whenever they're putting together packages. So what happens after the construction contract is signed?
Really, at that particular point, you just kind of wait until the loan is approved. But in the meantime, your builder is doing a lot of behind the scenes work, getting ready. If there's a demolition, involved in a current structure, that plan is going. Otherwise, the builder just starts the process of preparing to mobilize and get to the job site and begin with the excavation phase. I know in our Utah market, we have a lot of prep work that has to be done just to prep the site for what they call an LOD, a limit of disturbance. We have to put fencing up. We have to have it inspected. There's a lot of things that go along in that particular market, whereas in our St. Louis market, we have a lot of demo prep for the demo that we have to do. But usually once the contract is signed, it's turned over to the lender. The lender begins their due diligence period in trying to finalize and close the loan, say 30 to 45 days. And during that period, the builder is actually starting to mobilize and get ready for the construction process. The one thing that we are happy to do, and this is where your relationship with your lender comes into play, is that if you have a lender that you know, that you trust, that you've used a long time, and they give you what's called a clear to close, we actually will start work then. So you've not actually signed your construction documents for your loan, but the lender has you cleared, ready to close within the next week or two. So they're comfortable with us beginning construction. The client is comfortable, so we get a little bit of a head start.
When do you get your construction start date?
Generally, it's whenever the lender tells you when they will be able to close the loan. It could vary a little bit. Your builder will know exactly how busy their trades are, their subcontractors are, their staff is. But from our perspective, once we know what that closing date is, we're going to work to meet that we have crews there within a week, at least, if not that day, starting to work on the project. So it's something that really, as soon as you know the closing date, the builder should be able to give you that start date.
So sometimes do the clients know it before we do?
No.
No. They always tell us
well, they think they do, or
Yeah.
they would like it to be sooner than it really could be. But no, it's your builder is going to set that start date for you.
What does this feel like for a client? Are they nervous? Are they excited? I mean, what do you sense when you talk to people when they're getting ready to turn dirt?
All sorts of emotions. I mean, we'll talk about the actual process itself, the entire build, because as you can imagine, the budgeting stage can be stressful, right? Because you don't know what it's going to be. You hope it's within budget. If it's a little bit high, you might have to value engineer. So that can be stressful. But then all of a sudden that's behind you. You've signed the contract. All the information is at the lender. The lender's in underwriting. You're getting ready to close. You're thinking, my goodness, we're a few weeks away from actually starting our project. Very exciting. Everybody's excited. It's a great time. And really, that continues for much of the project. You brought up an interesting point. There are so many times during the project that you think that house is smaller than it's going to be, larger than it's going to be, whatever. So there's a little bit of angst here or there. The foundation's in. Oh my gosh, that doesn't look very big. Did we make a mistake? That's where, again, trust the builders or walk your plans or something like that will help you. Once it starts framing, everybody's genuinely very excited. Then all of a sudden it rains or snows during the framing process and everybody's worried. And we tell everybody, do not worry about rain or snow. Construction materials are manufactured in this day and age it's made to sit under the water for weeks without getting damaged. Mm-hmm. Same with the lumber. Your builder's going to make sure that that lumber is dried out before they insulate and close up those walls. It happens with every single project, so just don't freak out if your project has rain or snow, during the framing. And then, the selection process, the more you can do up front, the easier it is down the road. We had that discussion in our weekly meeting recently. In the Utah market, we have virtually all decisions made up front because it helps with the budgeting, it helps with the construction timeline, it just makes it easier on everybody. St. Louis, we've been a little bit more lenient in allowing decisions to be made during the process, which I believe is slowing us down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So try to have your selections made up front, work with your builder, find out what his timeline is. Our recommendation is make as many as you can up front. It can get stressful otherwise, right? Mm-hmm. And then, quite frankly, just sit back and enjoy the process. We've talked about this before too, Melody. Understand, if this is a true custom home, these plans have never been built before. There will come pinch points, I call them, trouble areas, whatever you want to call them. Just trust that your builder will come to you with recommendations and suggestions on the best way to get through it. I promise you, if that home was to be built again, they would not run into that same situation because they would have gone back to the architect and said, hey, this happened the first time. We need to correct it again. So there will be times during the project where you'll probably feel frustrated or disappointed. It's common. It's normal. It happens on virtually every project. Trust your builder, trust your architect to get you through it.
And even if it's built 100 times before, the land that you're building on, when you have those build our plans on your land, you cannot predict what's under the soil sometimes.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up because everybody is excited early on to get the project underway. Sometimes you do run into soil that needs to be mitigated due to clay. Clay is expansive. It can really wreak havoc on a foundation as it contracts and expands due to wetness and cold and everything else. In the mountains, you might run into unexpected rock that has to be bring in a breaker or a grinder, or sometimes you have to blast. You can do studies up front if it'll give you some peace of mind, but just understand that you may be doing a test hole right next to an area that is clay soil and the area you're testing is not. So just another word of caution, be receptive if something happens during excavation that, again, it's typical. I recommend, we've talked about this in previous episodes, try to have some sort of a contingency in the budget to take care of this. And then if you do not need that contingency, it's not going to be part of your final construction loan, or you can use those funds if you want to upgrade some of your finishes down the line, but just have a contingency in there for the excavation phase.
I want to get to the fun part, which is marking the milestone. I think that everybody should be prepared to go on site and see that excavator start digging. I get excited about it. You could do a champagne toast.
We've done a variety of things.
Yeah.
We've actually, when there's demolition involved, we've actually had some of our clients up in the cab of the excavator, the heavy equipment, and they've actually got to bring the equipment down and take the first swipe at the house, if you will. So we do a lot of different things. But yeah, work with your builder. It's a great time to celebrate. You've gone through a whole process of finding the land and designing the home and budgeting the home. You're finally at construction. Take time to enjoy it and do something fun, and then go visit the site. We encourage our clients, which most of them do, except the ones in Park City are not generally in the Park City area. They're from other parts of the country. We encourage our clients to visit the home as often as you can, to walk through it and enjoy it. If you're building with a production builder, just be aware most production builders only have certain times they will allow you to go through the house, and you'll walk through with the superintendent at that particular time. So custom production, totally different. Every builder has their own rules and regulations. If you're building a production home, that's something you should ask. If you're building a custom home, your builder should be giving you access to this house virtually every day. And if they don't, I would question that a little bit.
You're starting to get into seasonite on me, Kim.
Oh, shoot.
That's okay. That's okay. We talk in broad strokes a lot about the materials and making selections and the components, but we're going to really dig into step by step that process, milestone by milestone, so that everybody can understand exactly what to expect during excavation, kind of some of the gotchas, what to look for during your electrical and mechanical walk. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, I think.
So kind of a deep dive, like you say, into the milestones, which is also good to help people understand what they should be prepared to look for, what they should be prepared to do. I like that. And you're right, I did get a little bit ahead of you, but that's how much I care for our listeners. I want them to truly make this a fun experience, enjoy it along the way. So as much information, helpful information as we can provide, that's what this is all about.
Yep. Obviously, it's a great podcast to have for you to do. You love talking about building.
I do.
So.
I do. This is right up my alley.
Yes. Just like a well-planned wedding, the work behind the scenes during pre-construction sets the tone for everything that follows. With permits underway and the land prepared, the stage is set, and soon the real transformation begins. We hope you enjoyed our season taking you through the pre-construction and planning process. If you've missed any part of this season, we invite you to go back and listen from the beginning. Each episode builds on the last, just like the process itself. We're going to take a couple weeks break to prepare for season 9. But you'll want to join us because this is when we're going to take you through the milestones of the construction process. And Kim, I've got to let you say, join us then one last time for season 8.
Join us then for season 9. Thanks, everybody.
Be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes, and please rate and review. The Art of Custom is produced by Hug Monster Sound with original music by Adam Frickfordine. Thanks for listening.